Ugandan shillings. Centrum Investments also lost over 1.27%, down to 252.53 Ugandan shillings closing price, and this was the second day of losing on the Uganda Securities Exchange consecutively for the company. Nation Media Group lost over 0.65%, down to 474.99 Ugandan shillings, and Equity Bank Limited lost 0.33%, down to 1,354.99 Ugandan shillings. Jubilee Holdings, on the other hand, lost a value of over 0.33%, down to 5,956.0 Ugandan shillings, and KCB lost over 0.33%, down to 1,162.91 Ugandan shillings. On the moving side, we also had just two companies look at into the trading window of the Uganda Securities Exchange, and these were Wumeme and MTN. Wumeme traded at a small volume of about just 1,822 shares, and MTN traded about 527 shares. That was on the Thursday of that is the fourth day of trading at the Uganda Securities Exchange. The day ended with a total of just 2,349 shares traded on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and corresponding to a market value of just 605,020 Ugandan shillings. Disappointing markets trading, of course, there for the Thursday trades, but we can keep hopeful. Probably in the next few days or so, probably the market will pick up, but the year is beginning on a very slow note when it comes to trading. We had thought probably at the beginning of the year we saw some bit of intensity on the markets, but nothing much has so far also been able to be achieved so far on this end when it comes to traded volumes on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and this is quite disappointing. But at least MTN and Wumeme keeping up the show and trying to see that we are still having some bit of activity here on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now let's get to look at how far Wumeme stock has gone. Remember, Wumeme is currently the company that is on top of the game when it comes to trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange. In the past 3 months, of course, following also the declaration by the company that they will be exiting Uganda in 2025 on the 30th of March, there was a lot of attention towards the company or even its stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and currently it's counting one of the most traded on stocks on the Uganda Securities Exchange at the moment. Wumeme in the last couple of days has also gained value on the Uganda Stock Exchange in terms of pricing, with their stock moving to 280.0 Ugandan shillings. Now we're talking about a stock that began 2022 with close to let's see, about 180, between 175 and 180 shillings in 2022. Currently, a year after, we are counting 280 Ugandan shillings per share, over 100 shillings gained on their stock price in just a single year. So that definitely shows you that the company is going places in terms of trading here at the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, they have about 455 billion Ugandan shillings market capitalization. This is the total value of their shares, the shares that are listed on the stock exchange for Wumeme. And currently, this makes them the 8th most valuable out of the 18 companies on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, currently, they represent over 2.17% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity share, and they do have over 1.65 billion shares that are currently floated on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Recent performance also indicates very positive figures for Umeme. It's showing signs that the company may not come down very soon. Currently, when you look at their 1 week performance, Umeme has gained over 1.45% on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and in 4 weeks, they have accrued a total value of over 33.3%, and in 3 months, over 40% on the exchange. Umeme closed their last day of trading on Thursday, the 12th of January, at 280.00 Ugandan shillings, and Umeme, however, began at 275 the year 2023, 275 Ugandan shillings per share, and has since then gained about 1.82% on their price valuation, ranking them the third on the Uganda Securities Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance. Shareholders can be optimistic, highly optimistic about Umeme stock, because they're currently accruing over 33% over the past 1 month. Literally meaning, if you invested 100,000 3 months ago, you probably have a value. The total value of your money is up by 33,000. And if you invested $1 million, your total value is up by 330,000. That's basically the implication of these percentages. In terms of trading, like I mentioned, they're also trading quite well compared to many of the other stocks on the exchange. And last 3 months, they are the second most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with a total of close to over about 26.1 million traded shares from the 12th of October 2022 to the 12th of January 2023. Umeme in this period has traded 26.1 million shares valued at 5.74 billion Ugandan shillings over the period. That this is also the biggest turnover. If you remember last year, 2022, the company had the biggest turnover in the first quarter of 2022, all through the second quarter, third quarter, and the fourth quarter. Probably the data is about to be released there on the total or aggregate performance of the stocks on the Uganda Securities Exchange by the Capital Markets Authority. The company can be credited for having the biggest turnover for the year 2022 overall. Currently, it still does come on top of the game. In last quarter, about 5.74 billion Ugandan shillings have been transacted on the company for the last 3 months, from just about 12th of October to the 12th of January. Now, when you look at their last day of trading, this has been one of their smallest volumes this year, if not actually the smallest, because on the 11th, yesterday but one, they had about 5,000 shares. And then on the 9th of January, they had about 94,000 shares, and 6,000 shares on the 4th of January, and on the 3rd, about 18,600. Definitely, this has been their smallest volume this year. So Thursday trading really saw the markets go that low, and currently the company is still one of the most traded on, with the biggest turnover, despite the fact that they had a smaller volume this time around. MTN Uganda also traded about 500 shares. This was a small volume as well, but coming from a company that has been also quite active on the Uganda Stock Exchange. In terms of market capitalization, we are counting about 4.03 trillion Ugandan shillings on MTN Uganda, and currently this makes about 19.2% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. MTN closed their last day of trading with a total price of 180.0 Ugandan shillings on the Uganda Stock Exchange. This value, of course, when you look at their trading, they had about 527 shares valued at over 94,860.0 Ugandan shillings that was traded. That is the turnover basically for the company here on the exchange. When you look at also the current shares outstanding, about 22.4 billion shares are currently being counted on the Uganda Stock Exchange with a total market capitalization of over 4.03 trillion Ugandan shillings. MTN also hasn't had that much shifts in price in this year. Particularly 2023 started with the company at 180. The company moved up a little bit a few days ago to about 185 and then came back down to 180, and that's currently what MTN is looking like. However, MTN Uganda is still the third most traded owned stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months. MTN in this period has traded over 21.2 million shares valued at 3.82 billion Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of 336,115 traded shares per session and a volume high of over 9.89 million that was achieved on the 3rd of January 2022. MTN Uganda currently is also one of the most traded on stocks and the most valuable on the exchange. In summary, looking at the Uganda Securities Exchange All Share Index, this is a benchmark of performance on the index, tracking the aggregate performance of all the .67% that was also added to its value, and Captura Tea Company gained over 4.32% as well. On the losing side, Samia Africa came out with the biggest loss on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with a total of over 9.24% that was lost, and closing the company with the second last day of trading with a total of 2.16 Kenyan shillings per share. Following this, of course, was Car and General Kenya at 6.25% loss, and East African Portland Cement as well with a 6.25%. Sasini Tea and Coffee also lost about 4.57%. Safaricom recorded the biggest volume of over 3 million shares that were traded, and Safaricom has been the big boy this year, coming back on top. Equity Group Holdings was taking over towards the end of 2022, but seems Safaricom is coming back stronger as well as we progress in the month of January. Also, NCBA Group had a big share there of the volumes that were traded. Over 1.18 million shares are attributed to NCBA Group, and East African Breweries as well at 546,000 shares as well, had a big volume coming amongst the top movers. Cooperative Bank of Kenya had also about 151,000 shares that were traded. Now, regarding the performance of the NSE index, the market index dropped 1.04 points. That was 0.83% for the day's trading, to close at exactly 124.01 points, representing a 1-week loss of 2.6% and a 4-week loss of 1.94%. Yet we have an overall year-to-date loss of about 2.71%. Other remarkable indices that performed were the NSE 20 share index and the NSE 25 share index, with the NSE 20 declining over 0.16% and the NSE 25 declining by 0.25%. Now, the turnover improved by 149% to over 234 million Kenyan shillings, whereas the data also shows that the volumes improved by 47% to over 5.8 million shares that were traded on the market. The current market capitalization of the Nairobi Securities Exchange is 1.93 trillion Kenyan shillings. And that's the trading, my friend, from Kenya. Remember, Kenya is on the move to integrate the African capital markets to see that we have a common market, and this is exactly what we are advocating for as well here in Uganda, making, of course, trading easier and also trying to see that our people can cut out the costs of being able to buy shares in Kenya. It should be seamless. It should be easy. It should be something that everyone can do, and it should be something that everyone enjoys to be part of. So the East African capital markets would, of course, bring a new touch to our markets here in Uganda, because we have seen cross listings on the Uganda Securities Exchange being very, very docile and inactive. Why? Because people don't know them. But that's one. Sometimes people cannot invest in what they don't understand, what they have never seen. But much as they can read about it, but if they have never seen it, it's pretty hard. And also, getting to convince many shareholders to let go of their shares is not easy. It's like people really don't mind about the cross listing. So if we have a common market, we could also get rid of the cross listings and have this entire market come together, so that we just have one single market for all East Africans to be able to buy and sell shares on the capital markets. Away from all that, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange also lost some value on the Thursday of the 4th day of trading. Now, we had about we had about 2.7 million shares that were traded on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, and just 29 companies participating in the trading at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. The day ended with 12 gainers and 13 losers, with Zimbabwe newspapers leading the gainers at a 14.99% share price appreciation, closing the day with 2.7775 Zimbabwe shillings per share. It was followed by Mashonaland Holdings and Seed Company at 7.15% and 7.17% respectively. And those were the big boys there on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. The Zimbabwe All Share Index lost over 45.91 points, which was a 0.21% loss to 21,857.18 points. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange, at the biggest stock exchange in Africa, was a gainer rather on their benchmark index here, with the benchmark index going up by over 521 points. Well, pretty smaller compared to how they have been moving upwards in the last few days, but still a move in a positive direction. The company had about 521 points added to its all share index, which closed at 78,522 points. Currently, it's registering a 1-week gain of 5.3% and a 4-week gain of 5.45%. Things seem to be improving on this South African market, and I don't know where this is really coming from, but definitely they are maintaining a very good performance so far. On the other hand, of course, the US Treasury yield ticked down as well. The yield on the benchmark 10-year note in the US Treasury note fell to 3.4% from 3.5% on Thursday morning, and the dollar index fell from 0.51 fell 0.51% to 102.66 US dollars. The moves came after data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that in December prices decreased 0.1% over the prior month, but increased 6.5% over the year prior, and that was in line with expectations of the year-over-year inflation cooled from about 7.1% a month earlier. That's it, my friend. Thank you so much for sparing time and watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony. Remember, the show is brought to you by Altex, and before we wind up, make sure you go and check out Altex at www.altex.com. You can do this simply wherever you are, in your office, at your home, and you can be able to buy or sell treasury bonds on the East African market at the convenience of your smartphone or your small phone, without need to go on the internet, without any need for stockbrokers. You can now be able to buy those bonds and get them into your investment portfolio. My name is Anthony. I'll catch you tomorrow. Oh, it's a Friday, so I'll catch you on Monday, same time, same place. Bye for now.